My name is Karen Long and welcome to Fast Beyond 40. I have a very special guest waiting in the wings today. She has dominated the sprints from the 60 metres right through to the 400 for well over a decade. She currently competes in the women's 75 age group, which means she runs against women aged 75 to 79. She has been the national champion many times over. She is also a multiple world champion. Lyn holds state records, Australian records, as well as world records. She is a mum and a grandma. And today we're going to take a deep dive into what it takes to be fit, fabulous, and fast, well into your 70s. Lyn is a beautiful example of this. I'm excited for our conversation today. So Lyn, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure, Karen.
Well, what I thought I'd just ask you as a starting point is, do you have any idea how many national medals you have won over the years?
No, I don't. Up until probably about 10 years ago, when I turned 65, was probably my best year of running. I broke world records, Australian records, state records. I broke 15 Australian records all in the 1 year. I was ranked number world in the 100, 400 and second in the 200 that year. So that was probably my most productive year. Unfortunately, the last 3 years I've been plagued with injuries. And that was probably, I got that from running on an indoor track without having run on one before, not knowing how to run it properly. I put my pelvis out of alignment and wondered why 6 months later I was starting to get all these back issues until I had it fixed. But unfortunately, by that stage, different parts started to give way and I've been battling them ever since. But I am still out there. I'm still competing. I guess when you get to my age, you don't have a niggle somewhere. In fact, I'm sure that people that are even younger still have a niggle somewhere, but we learn to adjust our lifestyle, adjust our running, and we keep going. And yes, still here, still competing. Each time I compete, and by competing, you meet fabulous people, not only in the country you live in, but when you do the worlds from overseas. There's a lady in Canada who I have never beaten and probably never will unless she, unfortunately, shouldn't say it, unless she breaks a leg. She gave me some good advice at my last World Championships. You've got to keep yourself fit, healthy and strong. It's not just the athletic side of training that you need to concentrate on. It's keeping your body fit and healthy and doing weights, because when you're over, I'm not sure whether it's 40, 50, you start losing muscle mass. You never get it back again once it's really gone. So it's imperative for all women, no matter whether you do exercise or whether you just sit behind a desk all the time, we need to keep our bodies fit and healthy. So that's probably the best advice I could give people.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lyn. And do you know how many world medals you've won? How many times you've been the world champion or won a medal on a world level?
I should have done some research on this, but I haven't, so I've got no idea. I've probably, it was about, I'll probably give you a background. I started off doing long distance running, and then someone gave me some advice once to take up sprinting, which took me a couple of years for that to actually sink in before I took their advice and changed to sprinting. It took me 8 years to win before I won my first individual world record. But that's how goals happen. They don't happen overnight, and we can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a world champion. It just happens. It doesn't work that way. I'd won several team medals doing relays, what have you, but my first individual medal was a a bronze medal, which I won at the games in Porto Alegre, Brazil. And since then, individually, I've probably won about 15 to 20.
Wow. Wow, that's really impressive, Lyn. And you mentioned that you were originally, I think, a long distance runner. What's your background with sport? Did you do much running when you were a kid and a teenager and in your younger years, or what sort of sport have you done throughout your life?
As far as running was concerned, I did athletics at school, which I think we all had to do on sports day. I don't remember having been all that good at it. I've got one photograph of a school sports day where I came second in a sprint race. But apart from that, no, my background was horse riding, which I started when I was about 10. I mean, I did ballet back when I was about 8 to 15, but the horse riding took over. I did show jumping, eventing, was a lady jockey briefly. Recreationally with the family, we did a lot of water skiing, never did any athletics whatsoever. Did tennis. When my children started to play tennis, I joined in too, so I did a bit of tennis. I didn't actually start my athletics until my ex-husband at the time was a marathon runner, and he'd be out hitting the pavement doing about 100 to 200 Ks a week, and I was sitting home doing house cleaning, and I thought, well, why am I doing this? Well, I might as well join him. So I took up running, but obviously you can't just go out and do all that stuff straight away. So my first jog, I think, was down to the post office about a kilometre down the road. Sat on the fence for 5 minutes, got my breath back, and managed to make it back home again. That was the start of my running career.
Wow. And what age were you when you started doing that running, Lyn?
I think I was probably about my early 40s.
Wow. Okay. So in your early 40s, you only just take up running and you started with the long distance. Then you transition into a sprinter. And now here you are in your 70s and you've said you've won 15 to 20 world medals, and yet your background wasn't even in running originally.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, which just blows my mind. So what would you say then to anyone watching this who might be thinking, well, I can't do what Lyn's doing? I mean, you've just said you weren't even a runner, and here you are being the world champion. So what would you say to that? If someone said to you, I'd love to be able to do what you do, but I just can't.
Look, I have people say that to me frequently because I still run professionally, and I have women coming up to me all the time and saying, I wish I could do what you do. And I say to them, why not? And they say, well, I'm either too busy or I'm too old or whatever. You're never too old to take up doing sport or doing anything that you really want. It's your mindset. If you want to do something, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find that the busy people are the people that get things done. So it's no excuse to say, look, I work a 9 to 5 and I've got children to take to school. If you really want to do it, you'll find a time for yourself and to do what you really want to do. Just set yourself goals, small ones to start off with, ones that you can actually achieve. And if the desire to do it is there, you'll do it.
100%. That's great advice, Lyn. So what, training wise, what's your training schedule look like?
I train with a group of other runners who are all as dedicated to running as what I am, which makes it so much easier, so much better. And having said that, I admire you for what you do, because I know you do most of your running and training by yourself, which I would find extremely hard to do. So you have to be really dedicated to do what you do. So I admire and take my hat off to you, because you're also a world champion yourself. Forgotten the question now.
How much training do you do with your team?
It also happens when you get to my age, you have memory blanks. I train with our group 3 sessions a week. I now do one gym session a week, and that is sort of in a private gym where we have only groups of 10 people, but it's more for strength, stretching and exercise. It's not anything to do with, you don't do anything really physical as far as the running side of it's concerned. And that's the advice that my nemesis in Canada gave me, who was International Female of the World last year. She said she does core classes once a week. So my running buddy that I travelled with, we looked at each other's, thought to ourselves, okay, when we get home, we're going to take it up ourselves. So we did some research, found this place that does this specific training, which is for strengthening your muscles and your core, and just it's stretching with weights. So I can honestly say that within the first 12 months or even the first 6 months, I felt an amazing difference in my body, as far as feeling fit, being so much stronger for having done so. So I can't recommend that highly enough.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that you train with a team. How do you think that benefits your results? Because I know you said I train on my own, which I've been traveling for a while, so that's kind of forced me to do that. But I used to train with your team, and it definitely had benefits. Did you want to speak to that?
It's great, the fact that we're all there for the same purpose. We support each other. Obviously, you have highs and lows and days where you don't feel like running, but when you're with a group that's so motivated and dedicated to what we do, we all help each other get through all of those things. You train so much better when you've got people to run with. Having a coach is also very important to get to where both you and I have managed to achieve. I don't think we'd be able to do it on our own. The team is just so, because we're so supportive of each other, the highlight of your week is going to training, being with those people. It just keeps you so motivated, and you're happy to train harder. If you did it by yourself, you'd probably chuck the towel in.
Absolutely. And one of my fondest memories of training with a team was, it's almost 10 years ago now. It was when we were getting ready for the World Championships in Perth in 2016, and it was about middle of that year, so it was very cold. It was winter, and I did a session with Vince and Michael, and Paul said to us, our coach at the time, Paul, said that we were to do a ladder, and we'd never done this specific ladder before. It was a 250, a 225, and then a 200 meters, and we were supposed to run them at 90% with 8 minutes rest. But the thing is, Lyn, and you would know this, that when you run with men or train with men, they do not like to be beaten by a woman, and then you as the woman do not want to get flogged by the men. So we we were there at the start line of the 250, and I remember I was on the inside lane, Vince was in the middle, Mike was on the outside. He counted us down. He said 3, 2, 1, go, and we just took off like a rocket. And all three of us literally ran flat out. And I remember we got to the finish line, and Paul was standing there, and he said, "Oh, that all got a bit willing." And you could see him kind of chuckling. He knew what was going to unfold, because we literally ran it flat out. So we get back to the start of the 225, and Michael counts us down again, 3, 2, 1, go. And same thing again, all three of us just took off absolutely flat out, ran it really hard. And I remember at the finish line, Vince vomiting. He was done, and we still had the 200 to go, and it was only me and Michael that made it to the start of the 200. And I remember saying to him before we ran, I said, "I really don't feel too well." He said, "No, neither do I." And I still ran a really good time, and so did him. But I remember I was probably 30 minutes before I was ready to drive home. I was just that buggered. But yeah, that's what happens when you run with other people. You find legs you never knew you had. And it's a lot of fun too. There's a social aspect of running in a team that I find is really, really valuable as well.
Absolutely. And I've been through training sessions similar to that, where you don't think you can do something, but it's amazing how you can do it. I was training for 550 at the Bay Chef, which is a pro meat, and as it turned out in the finish, I was the only female left in amongst all men who were aged 30 and above. And the training sessions prior to that were very similar, where the coach said, okay, I want you to team me up with one of my other teammates who was a bit younger than me, but we still managed to train fairly much similarly. We had to do 2 300s flat out, walk back 100 absolute flat out, one after another with only about 3 minutes recovery. And we did the first 300, walk back 100, barely still being able to breathe, and managing to stagger to the end of that one. You start to feel a little bit sick in the stomach, and you line up for the second one. And I said to my running mate, I said, this is going to be really ugly because I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. It turned out I ran the 300 in exactly the same time as I did the first one. So sometimes we don't think we're capable of doing something, but we actually can prove ourselves wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And that is a brutal session. I know I've done that session a few times. So it's a broken 400 and you're doing 2 of them. And well, yeah, it really hurts at the end of that, that's for sure. So, Lyn, what about food? Like, what's your your eating habits like to maintain?
Really not the person to ask that question for. I certainly, over the years, have improved my diet. Nutrition is very important. I probably in the last 10 years have changed my diet quite a bit, cutting out a lot of the junk. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who has a chronic sweet tooth, so I still manage to slip in the odd Vicky piece of cake. I still like my gin and tonic at the end of the day. But prior to that, I have my protein shakes before and after training, which has protein powder and creatine and all the little goodies that are helpful for our bodies. Obviously, we're all different. I've just found out that my body's always dehydrated, and I could never quite work out why, although admittedly I didn't drink enough water. I did a test with a coach a few years ago, and didn't matter what I did, I still came out dehydrated. I had a blood analysis done, and it was found out that my body doesn't actually absorb protein or water very well. So I now have electrolytes in my water. So hydration is very important. It's probably one of the most important things, and making sure that nutritionally we have the right foods prior to competition, afterwards, and during. So it helps to go, if you don't have any nutritional information yourself, you can always go to a nutritionist and get a base plan for how to support your body so that you can do these things.
Yeah, absolutely, because you want to be able to build and repair your body and also have the energy to do what you do. And what about like recovery and maintenance? Then what do you have a routine that you do with that?
Recovery, now that I'm the age I am, I find that recovery is very important. I'll need to have a minimum of at least 1 day in between a hard training session or competition. Back 10 years ago, I tried to do everything. I'd train one day, compete the next, train the next day, compete the next, compete the next, and it just went on. So basically, almost for 3 years straight, I did every state run, Australian runs, worlds, pros, without a decent break, which can be, a few weeks or even a month. So I did nothing, and eventually the body gave in. So it was a good lesson that you've got to learn not to overtax things. And as you get older, as someone said to me once, it's train smarter, not harder.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I found for me, it's really about learning to listen to your body rather than trying to control it, because your body's talking to you. And if you're not listening, then as you say, you can overdo it and eventually you'll have serious consequences for that, either an injury or some sort of illness that will force you to stop and have a break.
That's very good advice, Karen. Listen to your body. It will tell you. You've just got to learn to read the signs. If you've got a little niggle, don't push it. If you're tired, don't push it. If you don't, there's times when you don't think. I mean, there's a difference between I don't really feel like training today, and getting out there doing it, and then thinking afterwards, oh, gee, I feel great now. I'm glad I did it. But you'll get to know when your body is really fatigued and tired. Don't push the limits, because the last thing you want to do is get injured. And then the older you get, the injuries are a lot harder to recover from.
Longer recovery process. And you mentioned mindset before, Lyn. This is something that always stands out to me, like looking at you from the outside, is just how strong your mindset is. Is there anything specific you do? Do you do any meditation, visualization, hypnosis? Do you have any specific methods that you use?
No, I don't. I've often thought about doing meditation. I've been amongst a lot of people who do it, but I have never actually done it myself. I think I've always been competitive all my life. It's just a part of me. I don't like getting beaten. That's probably the competitive side of it. Doesn't matter whether it's playing marbles or whether it's doing athletics. But I think if you really want to do something, when you say to yourself, if you set those goals and stick to them, your mindset can change. And it's just a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to do this. And I guess it's also the support of either your running colleagues or your family, who are behind you in this as well, that will help you get through all that.
Having that community of support around you is really important, for sure. And is there an achievement of yours that really stands out as being the most memorable, or maybe there's a few of them that you're the most proud of?
There's probably a couple. Probably winning a sprint award for the Australian Masters one year, and also that was the year when I turned 65. I won the 60, the 100, the 200, and the 400 distances all in the one meet, which, from what I've heard of, is usually fairly hard to achieve. But I know you're probably one of those types of athletes as well, that normally if you're a 60-metre sprinter, you're not a 400-metre sprinter.
True.
But that year I managed to do all four. My age grading percentage was around 98, 99 for every race that I ran. So I was fortunate enough to get awarded the top female male sprinter of Australia for that year. So that was a reasonable feather in my cap. But I guess the other one was breaking the world record by over 13 seconds for the 4x400 relay, which is probably about 9-10 years ago. We were fortunate that we had 4 girls here in Australia that were all in probably the top 3 in the world, and it was a pretty amazing effort that we actually managed to do it, because one of the girls had just a couple of hours previously had run an 800, having done a pentathlon. That was also the year that I had a bit of my body meltdown for over thrashing my body, so I really didn't even feel like running. But we decided at the last minute we'd give the world record a crack, and broke it by 13 seconds. And as several people even today tell me, they doubt that record will ever be broken. So that was pretty special to have done that one, and it was an amazing feeling. We had 4 other people that had to, at the drop of a hat, run in it as well, because you can't set a world record unless you've got another team to race against. So we just grabbed 4 people that we all knew, said they were borrowing uniforms from men and what have you, just to wear something, and we went out there and we even beat all those, and some of those were 20 years younger than us. So it was fun and enjoyable and rewarding at the same time. So we're all of us remember that race.
Wow, that's incredible. And Lyn, was that in the Nationals at Darwin?
Yes, it was.
I remember that race because we were cheering for you. And just to put this in perspective for people listening to this, when Lyn says they broke the world record by 13 seconds, keep in mind that this was after a full national event where, for you, Lyn, you've probably already run the 60, 100, 200 and 400 individually. You've probably run another relay as well, like maybe a 4x100. And then on that, I think it was the very last day, put together this team. So all four of you are in that same situation where you've had a full few days of competition, and then you've come out on what we call tired legs because you've already got so much running in your legs, and you've smashed the world record by 13 seconds. So that means that each leg of your relay, running 400 meters, ran about 3 seconds faster than the previous world record, which that is huge, Lyn. So it's amazing.
Yes, I think we'll all remember that day. And it was pretty special. So you remember those times, and you look back and reflect on times like that and say to yourself, wow, that's an amazing achievement. All that hard work and all that pain you go through, it was all worth it, and it's paid off.
100%. That's awesome. Just looking at my list of anything else. So what is it, Lyn, that to make sure I cover everything, what is it that drives you? I mean, a lot of people could say you're well into your 70s now. Isn't it time to just slow down and put your feet up? You know, what is it that drives you to keep going?
I still think it's that being in the running group, we all really look forward to each other's company and doing something together. I still enjoy the training, and there's times when I've been injured and I've been out for several months and I'm sitting around not doing anything. I feel lazy. I feel so much better in myself mentally as well as physically just by getting out and doing things. It helps you get through so many just daily life and chores. I can remember when I first started my long distance running, I was running with a fellow called John Bannon, who had just been elected the Premier of South Australia. And he was saying that when he first started sitting a full day in Parliament, which used to start at 8 o'clock in the morning and not finish sometimes till 9 o'clock at night, he said, I was falling asleep. I was so tired, even though he'd been in Parliament for most of his life. When he became Premier, the workload was obviously a lot tougher. So he thought to himself, I've got to get out and I have to get fit. When am I going to do it? Because my day is already full. So he decided, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 or whatever it was, go out and do an hour's training before he goes to the office. And before you know it, he was running marathons and what have you. He said, from the day I started doing all that bit of physical exercise in the morning, he got through the day easier. He wasn't feeling tired. He wasn't falling asleep. His mental concentration improved. So just getting out and doing some sort of physical exercise helps the brain. You can function and focus so much better. So yes, it's good for your everyday life.
100%. So I know that if something from working on something on the computer, or I can't figure something out and it's frustrating me, if I go out and do a run or go to the gym, quite often the solution will come to me while I'm doing that, and I come back, I'm fresh, I feel good, and then you can just keep going with what it is that you were doing. And the other thing you mentioned, with regards to John, I think a lot of people have that thought that I'm already tired, and if I go and do exercise, I'll be even more tired. And maybe initially you will be, but as you keep doing it and get fitter and more capable, you actually have more energy and you feel better. And as you say, you get through the day better, you get more done, and you feel good. So I'm like you, when I just sit around and do nothing, which is not often, but certainly more recently. Yeah.
Cranky.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lyn, what impact do you think it's had on your family for you, for them to see you, still in your 70s, going strong, competing, going after your goals? What impact do you think it's had on them?
Um, Quite a bit, I think. I mean, my children are amazed that I do what I do. They're very proud of what I do. I mean, I've got a daughter that probably has the same mindset as me. She was determined that she wanted to do a sport that she loved, which unfortunately was motorbike racing. I would have loved to have done ballet, but that didn't happen. She became the first woman to win a major motorbike race against all the men. So I concur with what you said earlier about men don't like being beaten by women. So she wasn't very popular when she went out there, but she was determined not to let those sorts of obstacles stand in her way of doing something that she loves doing. So I'm just fortunate that I love running, and I'll continue to do it as long as I can. People say, well, when I get an injury, they say, is your body telling you something here? Which means, do you think it's time to hang the shoes up? Well, until I really can't do it, it's not an option. It keeps me fit. I enjoy doing it. So why stop?
Absolutely. It's great advice, Lyn. And one thing I didn't get to ask you was, before you compete in a big competition, do you have any pre-race routine? Is there anything you specifically do, any process before the competition?
Yeah, getting a good night's sleep the night before helps. Making sure that you have probably the right nutrition beforehand. Lots of carbs for energy, your protein um, uh, for your strength and what have you. Make sure you're hydrated well. I ran one race one year, it was international. I didn't hydrate enough. I sat out in the sun all day talking instead of concentrating on the fact that I was running an Australian championship. A metre from the finish line, my body shut down. I couldn't hear, couldn't see. I only had one. I needed to take one step, and I was in front by several metres, but the girl behind me just managed to run past and beat me over. It only happened in a split second. I managed to take that step forward, still managed to come second, but it was a big eye opener that hydration is really important. So your body can't function if you don't give it the right fuel.
Yeah, 100%. And was that in the 200 meters, Lyn, that race? I think
Yes.
I remember that race because I was over at the start line, because I would have been running in the few age groups behind you. So we're lining up, getting ready to run, and so I'm watching you, and it's hard to see exactly where the finish line is when you're at the start of the 200. And I saw you, literally stop running, and I thought, oh, what happened? And then she just kind of pipped you right on the line. Yeah, so I do remember that. And so it just goes to show how important the right hydration is.
Completely.
That was quite scary to watch, to be honest, Lyn. I was like, oh gosh, what there?
Coach that looked like someone had shot me with a shotgun. I just literally stopped dead. And the one thing that was going through my mind is don't fall over, don't fall over, don't fall over. Because prior to that, I'd already had one running accident. Someone tripped me up on the finish line and I fell and I broke my shoulder. And that was pretty horrendous because that took me out for at least a year. So the brain was saying, don't fall over, but nasty things happen. So I managed to still stay standing. But yes, very scary.
Yeah, and it's so true. When you're running flat out, I know sometimes it's usually when you're trying to lunge for the finish line. And I've done that a few times and nearly fallen over. And I often think of you in that moment of stay on your feet, as you're doing it, because it gets very ugly when you're running flat out and you go down hard. It hurts, that's for sure. So, stay on your feet, Lyn. And I mean, we kind of covered it before, but what what advice for new people? I mean, you say you train with a group, so how would people even find a group of sprinters? Because sprinting is very unusual. Most people, when they hit 40, they want to go out and run a marathon. They don't normally think of sprinting. So how would someone even find a sprinting group to join?
Um, I guess most people or all of us either knew someone that was running that gives you contacts on who to join. It's all about starting off your running probably the right way to begin with. We are, as you probably know, we would have people that would come out and join our sprint groups. Oh, yes, I want to start sprinting. They'd turn up for a couple of sessions and find out, oh, this is all too hard, and then they disappear. And they don't realise that to do what we do, you've actually got to put in a bit of hard work. Success doesn't happen just by thinking about it or wanting to do it. You've got to put in the hard yards. I know when I mentioned how I first started, when I ran up to the post office and back, and then I'd go out and I'd do a lap around the block. And I said to Pete, my ex-husband, I said, oh, look, this is all too hard. I feel awful. So he said, all right, look, I'll go out with you. So he said, okay, you go and run first and show me what you're doing. So off I went. And after about 30 meters, he said, whoa, stop. He said, okay, you're doing this too fast. He said, take it slow. You're not going to win races right at the beginning. This isn't about going out fast and hard to start off with. Just take it slowly. So that's what I did. And I've done that with my sister-in-law, where she says, oh, I'm not going to go out running with you. I said, look, this is not hard. So just to start off with, even if you're doing it by yourself, going around the block, run for 30 seconds at your own speed, walk 30 seconds, run 30 seconds, walk 30 seconds. Next time you go out, you can either make it 40 seconds or just increase the speed a little bit. You just got to build on what you start off with from scratch. You'll find that just by doing it in small increments, you don't burn yourself out and say this is all too hard. Mind you, our first warm-up lap, every one of us, and you'll probably know the same when you do our first warm-up lap of a couple of 100 metres, even though we're just jogging it, you feel awful at the end of it. But after you've had a little breathe, you go out again, it's so much easier. So, yeah, don't put yourself off by trying to do too much at the beginning. Just build on it slowly. Find a group to train with, and then word of mouth will come around, or where you'll find where you can slot into and start from there.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I remember I just came out would have been late in 2012. I came and thought I could just sprint out of nowhere. I came to the Masters and ran a couple of races, and Kathy was there. And I remember Kathy from when I was a teenager, and she said, I'm a part of this training group. You should come out and train with us. And she just told me when and where you meet. So I rocked up there the next day to the training session. And at that stage, I had no idea that I was surrounded by people like yourself, Lyn, who are national and world champions. But for me personally, I started off trying to run flat out, and that, I had a lot of problems with my hip and my feet. So that's great advice, Lyn. You really do have to ease your way back into it, especially if you haven't sprinted like I hadn't for about 20 years. I've been running, but jogging 5K, 8K is very different to a flat out sprint. And there's a process that you need to go through so that you can have a smooth transition and avoid injuries. Yeah. So.
Well, and of course, sprinting is so much different to long distance running. It's all about technique. So when you look at it, sprinting is a lot harder than long distance running, because anyone can just go out there and left, right, whatever. And I can remember when I first joined the sprint group, and our coach, Paul Townley, he said to me, well, the first thing I'm going to have to do is get your hips up. And I just looked at him with this funny look on my face and said, beg your pardon. I had no idea that, what high hips meant. So it's all these little technique issues of high knees and all that sort of thing that you've got to learn, do drill after drill after drill to get your technique correct. to do the sprinting so that you, A, can run faster and B, without injury. I mean, if you look at all the sports people on television, be it whether you're a footballer, a golfer, soccer player, whatever, or even the cricketers, we all do a lot of drills the same. Each sport might have a few different ones because they use slightly different muscles, but all the basic drills, we all do them.
Yeah, and you're a testament to that, Lyn, because as you've mentioned previously, you didn't come from a running background, and yet when I watch you sprint, you're incredibly smooth. Even Simon has commented on that. You have a beautiful action, incredibly effortless, which is how you want to be when you're running. I mean, it's such a, I call it a passive, what do I call it? I call it a relaxed aggressive, in that your goal is to get to the finish line as quickly as you can, which is incredibly aggressive. But at the same time, you've got to stay relaxed, because the more relaxed you are, the more fluid you'll be. And I think that's something that you really shine at, because you just have such a beautiful action. You look like a 40-something-year-old running down the track. You really have no idea what your age is, Lyn, when you watch you run, because your action is so beautiful and smooth. It's lovely to watch. So,
Mind you, I ran a 400 on the weekend, and I haven't run a 400 for a couple of years. And I have to say, the last 25 meters felt like I was just going up and down on the spot. I had lactic acid like you wouldn't believe. And I thought, I am not going to make that finish line. But you know that there's all these people watching that I can't not stop. And oh my gosh, I'm feeling afterwards.
well,
Into a 5 headwind, I might add.
uh, usually was in Adelaide, you do have a headwind at the end. But I mean, it's tough even, for a younger person running a 400. I can't imagine, in your 70s to still run the 400. That's, to me, Lyn, that's incredibly impressive. Because, yeah, there's many races I've rocked up and thought, I don't want to run. And I see people like yourself lining up before me, and I think, well, I got no excuse. I got to do this. Oh, wow. So, Lyn, what's your goals? What's on the agenda for you from here? What would you like to achieve next?
Well, I've got Australian nationals in about 4 weeks. And then in 5 months, I've also entered the world champs in Daegu in South Korea. I'm not sure how I'll go because I am carrying a hamstring injury that won't go away. We don't quite know what's causing it, but I think it's important for all of us, having mentioned injuries, is that we look after our bodies when we're doing what we're doing, because running and sprinting especially is fairly brutal on the body, that we follow up with a good team of people behind us, like a physio. Massage is very important, as well as your diet. But yes, because of I think probably from all my horse riding from over 30 years of all the horse buses, I didn't do my back any favours, and I think a lot of my problems now are all coming back to bite me in the backside. So I think my hamstring injury is coming from my sacroiliac joint, which is from a few misalignment of a few of my vertebrae. So they're the sorts of things. Oh, mixed in with a little bit of old age arthritis. We have to put up with these things, but if we still want to keep going, we don't give in to these things. And I've often said to my masseur or my chiropractor, if I was a couch potato, would I still be here seeing you? And they said, yes, probably more often. So it's just a matter of managing our niggles, and hopefully one day it'll go away and I will be back feeling good again.
Fantastic. And Lyn, do you get any sponsorship for these World Championships, or is it all self-funded?
No, it's all self-funded.
Okay. All right. I think we need to look into that for you, for sure. And if people want to follow you, do you have any presence on social media? If people want to follow your journey and see what you're doing?
Look, I've never been a social media person, and I'm definitely would say I'm not an IT person. So as far as all websites and all that sort of things concerned, I don't really have one. Obviously, I'm on there somewhere, but I'm probably under there as two different names because everybody knows me as Lyn. But my full name is actually Evelyn, and when I compete overseas, I have to go by what's on my passport. So a lot of people know me as Evelyn. So um, I don't know if the two often link themselves up, but probably not. But I know that Instagram, I'm thinking of going on it, but I don't really know how to work that properly either. So I just bumble along. So probably to answer your question, no.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe Mandy can help you with Instagram. I'm sure she would probably know how to get you.
Not sure that she's on it, but I'm sure I can find someone that might be able to help me with it.
And is there anything else you want to cover, Lyn, before we wrap it up today?
I don't think so. I just think that the main thing is keep yourself fit, healthy, follow your dreams or your heart or what you want to do. Don't ever think I can't do it, because you can. It's just your mindset, and quite often we talk ourselves out of doing things. Don't do it. If you really want to do something, make the time and enjoy it is the main thing.
Absolutely. That's brilliant advice. Well, thank you, Lyn. I've had a lot of fun today chatting with you, and I'm sure we'll meet again soon on the track.
I'm sure we can, and I have to say that I take my hat off to people like you. Your health over the last 12 months has been pretty horrendous, and this is another bit of advice for people. Don't let little hiccups put you off and think, well, maybe I shouldn't do any of this. I mean, I myself 4 months ago had a TIA, which was a minor stroke, but I'm still out here now. I was back running 2 days after I had it. People say you're mad, you're stupid, but no, the doctors say the best thing you can do is get out there and keep up doing your exercise. And you can vouch for this yourself, having just been through some pretty horrific things yourself. But you're back out there again, running again. So it's probably because what we do that we are still here today. Whereas if you stop doing what we're doing and sat down thinking something might happen, well, the chances are more likely it probably will. But learn from experiences and, yeah, just keep doing it.
Just keep doing it. That's great, Lyn. We'll finish on that note. Just keep doing it.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It has to be fun as well at the same time. Well, thank you, Lyn. It's been great chatting with you today.
Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate it.